Welcome back to Brawlmaster Unscripted. This is the segment where I answer an assortment of questions, be they thoughtful or stupid. Let's start off with a question from Master Mario 548. What did you think of the new Samurai Jack season if you saw it, and could it lead to more old CN shows getting remade on Adult Swim, like Teen Titans? I did see the new Samurai Jack season, and I thought it was fucking awesome. I can't believe I forgot about the show essentially. I had to go back and rewatch the older seasons when I found out that this one was coming back, and then I finished it just in time to catch up with the new season. And then by the time I caught up with the new season, it was the series finale. So I was all caught up and ready for that by the time that aired. So that was really exciting. My God, Samurai Jack is an amazing show. Probably one of, if not the best, action cartoon on Cartoon Network. Honestly, I feel like if Cartoon Network had any sort of equivalent to Avatar, it would probably be Samurai Jack for me. That show is just so goddamn good. And the season was absolutely fantastic. Those first 3 episodes, or 4, or however many, the beginning was so freaking good. I just absolutely love that. Got a little iffy towards the middle, but it picked itself up, I think, generally. I think it was still generally good. The ending was satisfying for me, but like a lot of people, I do feel it was a little bit rushed. I think if they had a little bit more time, they could have fleshed things out a little bit better. The way it ended made sense, but I think it would have felt a little more natural if they had been given more time for the series finale. But overall, I felt Samurai Jack was absolutely amazing. It was definitely worth checking out if you haven't watched the original seasons. It's a pretty big change when you get to the new season, but it's still just so awesome. The show was really good. I don't know if it'll lead to more shows getting remade, because technically Samurai Jack wasn't remade for Adult Swim. I guess a better word for it is probably rebranded, because Tartakovsky always had an idea for the way the show would end in mind. He just didn't get around to it back in the day. And so Adult Swim was just kind of his way of finally concluding that story that he always had an ending to in mind. But I guess you're probably referring more towards rebranding, which is just kind of repurposing it to fit with Adult Swim as opposed to what it was like before on the original Cartoon Network. And in that sense, I guess I could see more shows kind of being rebranded with a more adult audience in mind. I just don't know what other shows could really use it. I don't think we'll see Teen Titans come back. As much as I would absolutely love that, I honestly really don't think we're ever going to see the original series come back. And it's purely because Teen Titans Go exists and because of how popular it is. It's become so popular that as far as Cartoon Network is concerned, they probably don't see any reason to ever touch the original series ever again. There's just no point to. I mean, why would they, as long as Teen Titans Go is so successful? Maybe Adult Swim could see potential in it, but I highly doubt it at this point. I really don't think we're going to see Teen Titans come back. As much as I would love it, I doubt it. I don't know what other shows they could do, though. Maybe like Symbiotic Titan or something? I don't really know. Okay, next question comes from J Games Gino. In your opinion, what makes a game addictive? I'd say there are a bunch of things that go into how addictive a game could be. First of all, it has to be fun, because if you're not playing a video game for fun, what are you playing it for? So it has to be fun to play above all else. For me personally, when I get addicted to a game, it's usually one that's in a pick up and play fashion, like one in a pick up and play nature, one that I can pick it up and play for short bursts and then put it down later. Stuff like Smash, Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, stuff like that. I like stuff that you don't have to sit down for hours in order to feel like you've accomplished something. You can get it done relatively quickly, because I think that's just more appealing. You're able to pick it up more often, and then you get addicted to it playing it that way. So I don't really... It's not that I don't like the longer adventure type games. I've been playing a lot of those kinds of games on my PS4, but it's just I feel like I have to sit down and play for hours in order to actually make some progress, and before I can turn the game off and do something else. So I don't really play those games quite as often. I don't really have time to sit down and devote so much time in one sitting to those kinds of games. I do enjoy them, it's just it takes me longer to get through those kinds of games. So I wouldn't really say I'm addicted to games like Uncharted or stuff like that. Like, there are games I enjoy, but I feel like I have to devote too much time to them in one sitting, and I just can't get enough sittings in order to really call myself addicted to those games. So I like the games that you can play for shorter bursts. They're easier to get into and get out of, and stuff like that. I think if a game has a lot that you can feel like you can attain over the course of however long you want to play it, that's also really helpful. If you can see that there are a lot of achievements, or there's a lot to do, and more importantly that it's stuff that you can actually achieve with minimal effort, or at least some effort, something that's not totally impossible, I think that definitely helps a lot, because when you can see that there's stuff to do, or you feel like there's something more you can always get done, it drives you to come back and to do it. But if the game just feels like it's really short, there's not a lot to it, then it's harder to get addicted to it. And then of course, I love games that have a lot of replay value. You know, if there's always a reason for me to come back and play it, that's always a plus in my book. Next question comes from Dr. Minjinx. Would you be interested in seeing Pokken Tournament get some kind of sequel or port for the Switch with new content? I'm not totally surprised that Pokken Tournament DX is a thing. I kind of had a feeling it would. I didn't know for sure, but when it was actually actually announced, I wasn't totally surprised. I am glad it did get a port. I was talking about this in the Switch video I made the other day. That I feel like because Pokken was on the Wii U, it didn't really get a chance to shine. You know, it was an exciting, legitimate Pokemon fighting game, and it never really got a chance to take off, even though it actually did somewhat well. I think it sold like 1 million copies, so for Wii U standards, that's pretty good. But it didn't get a chance to really take off because the Wii U was such a failure, and it was also a bummer because the arcade got so many exclusive characters that never made it to the Wii U version, so that was always a bummer. And I never really understood that, because from what I understood, the arcade version really wasn't all that popular. Like, they were almost taking it out of arcades because it wasn't really being played that much. So I don't really understand why, if the Wii U version was more successful and had more people playing it, why it never got those characters. But it hardly matters now, since we have the deluxe version coming for Switch. And kind of reiterating what I was talking about in that in my E3 review video when I was talking about this game, I don't really know if I'm going to pick it up or not, because I was pretty satisfied with the time I put into the game on the Wii U, and I got kind of bored of it after a while. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and I feel like enough time has passed that if I were to go back and play it, I'd have fun with it again. But it's hard because it's not the same thing as Smash, where, oh, it's got a bunch of new characters, so that's really exciting, that's something new to play. Because Pokken is a lot more technical than Smash. It's not quite as easy to pick up any character you want and just play with them, and play with them decently. You know, after like 5 minutes, every character plays differently, so you kind of have to take time to learn how they work in order to, you know, feel like you're actually making progress with them. And because of that, there were only like maybe 1 or 2 Pokemon I actually really like to play with in Pokken Tournament, and if those characters are already in the deluxe version, then the new characters don't really mean anything to me. They can add a ton of new Pokemon, but if I'm not ever really going to touch them because I just stick to my favorites, then what's really the point? Unless they added some Pokemon that, I don't know, just absolutely like blows me away, like, or one that really piques my interest, like, maybe Greninja. I was always surprised that they didn't put Greninja in. I know Frogadier's there as an assist, and that's probably why Greninja will never be in this version of Pokken, but I guess maybe if they had decided to put him in, I'd probably check him out. But aside from that, yeah, there are Pokemon that I would just stick to. I really wouldn't touch any of the new ones, so I would need more content than just new characters in order to be enticed to get this deluxe version of it. I don't know if there are any new features that I'm just not aware of. I kind of feel like there are, but I haven't really looked into it. Otherwise, if there's really nothing new other than like new characters and stuff, I don't really see a point in me getting it when I already have it on Wii U. I mean, yeah, I double dipped on Mario Kart, but Mario Kart was different because it had the battle mode, and to my knowledge, Pokken Tournament Deluxe doesn't really have any sort of equivalent to that battle mode. That's like brand new and really enticing. Next question comes from FJV. Why do you ignore my questions? Is it 'cause you're jealous? What's there to be jealous of? I mean, you don't even make videos anymore. You're irrelevant, so why should I care whatever you're doing? Why should I feel jealous of whatever you're doing? But if you want your questions to not be ignored, maybe you should just ask actually good questions. I mean, you're lucky I'm even featuring you here. Next question comes from Doomman899. What's a moment from your childhood that you could never even hope to do ever again, even if you really wanted to? There's not really any moments in particular that come to mind that fit that description. When I read your question, all I can really think of is just all of those times in my childhood where it was my first blank, you know, like the first game I played, the first time I went to Disneyland, the first time I did this or that. It's like those were really great moments from my childhood, and I'm never going to be able to get those moments back because I can't just go back to Disneyland for the first time because it's already happened. So it's like you can't ever really kind of relive that first time that you do something that's really new or exciting. So I just don't really have anything specific. I think it's just a lot of like my first time doing stuff. That's stuff that I'm never going to ever be able to do again, even though there are things that I would love to be able to relive to some capacity, but I probably won't ever be able to. Is it bittersweet? Sure, it is pretty bittersweet knowing that there are times in your life that you'll never be able to get back to, or you'll never be able to truly relive, but that's just part of life. That's just part of growing up. And something that I've really been kind of learning in recent years is it's almost like your childhood isn't like when you were in your prime. I mean, you can have fond memories of it, but it's really not like that was the best time of your life and absolutely everything after that is downhill. Because when you think about it, you really didn't have a lot of freedom as a child. Like, you have a lot more freedom when you're in your late teens to like early 20s. Like, when you were a kid, you couldn't drive a car, so you couldn't go anywhere unless, you know, you had your parents driving you. You didn't really have money because you didn't have a job unless you were like spoiled by your parents. So I mean, your options were really limited as a kid, and you kind of lose those restrictions and you lose those limitations when you get into your early 20s. Like, I have a car now, I can drive, so if I want to go do something fun, I don't need my parents to take me there. I can go there and do it myself. I have my own income, so if I really want to buy something, I can buy it. So you have a lot more freedom in your early 20s, and where I'm going with this is that I almost feel like when you're in your early 20s, that's really the time to be living. That's really the time to be going out and to be having a lot of fun and to be making new memories. I mean, of course, I'm working really hard because I'm trying to get my career set up and everything, but I feel like now is the time, because I'm still so young, to be going out and making these new memories, doing more stuff for the first time that I wasn't able to do as a kid for one reason or another. Because once you get past the early 20s and stuff, you never get that time back. I mean, it only gets harder as you get an adult, because your body gets older, so you can't eat whatever you want. You can't, do stuff quite as easily. It gets harder to do stuff. You eventually might settle down and have a family, and that's a commitment, so you don't have as much freedom to be running around as much anymore. So to anyone who's like going into their early 20s, the advice I can give to you is don't worry so much about your childhood. It's good to think fondly of it, but don't feel so sad just because it's over. You still have time. Trust me, you really do. You have time once you get into your early 20s to be doing stuff that you couldn't do as a kid, and it's great. So definitely make the most of it, because once you get your career set up, once you eventually meet someone and have a family and everything, you don't get that time back. You really don't. So make the most of what you have right now. Next question comes from X Grace Igloo. Do you have an opinion on Boruto, the sequel to your beloved Naruto? My beloved. Yeah, it pretty much is. I have been watching Boruto, but I don't know. I almost feel like it's a little early for me to be forming an opinion of it, just because compared to how long Naruto ran for, Boruto is just really getting started. So we really haven't seen what it's really capable of yet. We haven't really seen where the story's going to go. Um, when I was watching it, I really wasn't that impressed by what I was seeing. It just felt like everything was a little too campy, like nothing was really happening. And I understand why that is. I mean, you have to build up. You can't just start out with immediate conflict. So it's going to start slow as characters are introduced and the plot is building and the conflict is rising. So I totally understand all that. And where the anime is right now at the time of this recording, it is starting to get more exciting. Like we're getting more revelations and things are building up. But I don't really know if I absolutely love Boruto, just because I haven't really had time to get attached to the new characters yet, and I don't feel like the new characters have done enough to really feel unique and fresh. Like, a lot of the main characters are the kids of characters from the old show, and so they almost kind of act like you would expect them to act. Like, the child of Ino and Sai pretty much has traits from Sai and has traits from Ino, so he acts like how you would expect Ino and Sai's kid to act. So I mean, these kid characters, they have their traits from their parents, so it kind of feels like they're just, carbon copies of their parents, and they haven't really done enough yet to kind of stand out from them and form their own identities. Like, Boruto keeps talking about how he doesn't want to be Naruto. He doesn't want to follow in his shadow. He wants to be his own person. He wants to do his own thing. But so far, all I've really seen of him is stuff that Naruto used to do. Like, he's having his first real talk no jutsu moment, and it's like he's like, I don't want to leave anybody behind. I'll never, give up my comrades. I don't care about the village if it mean I don't care about the village and the Hokage if it means like giving up my friends. Like, he's very attached to his friends, and Naruto is the same way. So I feel like Boruto hasn't really had a chance to kind of flesh himself out and stand out and be his own character. So I feel like I'm going to enjoy this anime more as time goes on, and the plot continues to thicken, and these characters hopefully get more time to demonstrate to us that they're not just the offspring of characters from the old series, that they're not just carbon copies in terms of jutsu and in terms of personality. I just need more time for these characters to kind of stand out. So if you haven't watched it yet, it's not bad. I would definitely say check it out. Just kind of maybe tone down your expectations just a little bit, because the beginning is a little slow and it takes a little while to build up to something interesting. It definitely gets there, and it's there right now, so I'm excited to see where it goes next. I'm going to keep watching it, but right now it hasn't absolutely blown me away. Next question comes from Miker707's Gaming. Would you rather get punched in the face 5 times every morning, or be forced to play 1 hour of Paper Mario Sticker Star every day? I mean, the first choice is clearly better, no doubt about that, but I still would like to hear your opinion. I'd probably take the punches. I'd like it if they were maybe punches from like a kid so it doesn't hurt quite as much, but still, I'll take those punches. Unless I could just leave my 3DS powered on without actually touching the game, and if I could have that count as playing it. Probably doesn't. I probably would have to actively be playing it for that to count. In which case, I would probably say I would play it, but by play it, I mean I would probably just run around in circles and then like one screen of the game and accomplish absolutely nothing in an hour. So there you go. I'm technically playing it, and it doesn't say I have to accomplish anything in that hour. I'm technically playing the game, but I don't have to expose myself to anything more than like the first level. Next question comes from Ender50. What do you think of Sonic Force's new custom character creator and Classic Sonic being in Forces? Classic Sonic I'm indifferent to, since I didn't really grow up with him. By the time I got interested in Sonic, they had Modern Sonic as the big new thing, so I have no real feelings to Classic Sonic. The fact that he's here still kind of feels like they're trying to kind of milk off of the success of Sonic Generations, but I already talked about that in another video. As for the whole character creator thing, I like it. I think it's really interesting. I did not at all expect that the game would go in this direction. it's definitely an interesting way of having that third player character style without it being another Sonic. So they haven't shown a whole lot of it yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more and seeing all the different ways you can play as this character. And aside from all the memes about fan characters, and aside from, oh, DeviantArt is taking over, all that stuff, I still think it could be fun. I think the game could be really fun as long as there are enough options there to make the character feel fresh. And if there was some way to have like multiple save files so you could have different characters and experiment with things, I think it'd be interesting just to kind of see how to complete levels with new abilities that you didn't have the first time around. I think that could be really interesting. And I think there would be potential if the game were to be successful for there to be like DLC with more costume parts or more weapons. Personally, I would love to see like I don't know, if there was a template for Hedgehog, and then you could get like skins to look like Sonic or Shadow or stuff like that, or kind of get like costume pieces like shoes or something to kind of pay tribute to Sonic's existing friends that you can't play as in Forces because it's just Sonic and the custom characters. So I would love kind of fan service like that. But I think just in general, I think this is a really interesting kind of twist, and I'm looking forward to see where it's going from here. I mean, Sega clearly is not taking itself too seriously with this game, so I don't see why I should take it too seriously either. It could just be fun, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. Next question comes from That One Smash Artist. If you could choose 5 video game characters to have amiibo figures of, who would they be and why? That's a good question. God, what character have they not made amiibo of? It feels like at this point they've got like new amiibo coming out every month, and it's absolutely crazy. I'd say the first one would probably be just a more standard Bowser Jr. I know we've got the one from Smash where he's in the clown car, but I would like to see just a more standard one, maybe branded in the Super Mario series line. And I feel like that's a definite possibility. I feel like we could see that one in like a Series 3 or like a Wave 3, since they're still continuing that line. And I feel like Wave 3 has kind of already started because we're getting amiibo for the Goomba and the Koopa. So I feel like at some point maybe closer towards... Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say closer towards the release of those two because those are releasing alongside the Mario Odyssey ones. But I feel like we definitely will get like a Wave 3 of the Mario series amiibo, and I feel like Bowser Jr. would be just a shoe-in for that. So I'd love to see that. I know we're already getting Mario Odyssey amiibo, but I would love to see one of Pauline, especially because it seems like she's going to play a more prominent role in the game. Or at least I hope so. I hope it's not just that she's just here just for a nod to her character. I would love if she played some kind of role in the story, or if she had some sort of, interaction with Mario to kind of acknowledge that they have a history together already, that she's not just a new character. And I would love to see her in the form of an amiibo, but it doesn't look like that's happening yet. I think it's probably just going to be the wedding Mario, Peach, and Bowser, which is awesome in and of itself. And I think it would just be great to kind of have her there as sort of a celebration that she's making a big return to the Mario canon. Like, she's never been in a main series Mario game, and this is kind of her debut. And regardless of how big or small of a role she's going to play in the game's story, I think having an amiibo of her would just be great, just to kind of mark that occasion, as that was great because with this game we got to see Pauline come back. And I mean, we already have the other Mario girls like Peach, Daisy, and Rosalina, so why not throw Pauline in there so you get all 4? So I would love to see her. Let's see, what else? Moving away from Mario, I would love to see Snake. I mean, I would love to see Snake come back in Smash, and it'd be awesome if he got an amiibo because of that. Then you can have all the main third-party characters as amiibo, but we'll see. We'll see if we ever get that Smash Deluxe port with more characters, and if Snake were to make the cut that time, he'd get an amiibo, and it'd be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I'd love to see Snake. I'd also love to see Sora. If we were to get a Switch port of Kingdom Hearts 3, I would love to see us get an amiibo for Sora if it was like sort of exclusive to that version for Nintendo, just to kind of say thank you for hosting half the series on the Nintendo handhelds. I feel like Nintendo more, maybe, aside from Sony, the only other company that would deserve something special in terms of treatment would be Nintendo, just because like half the games have been on Nintendo systems. I still don't understand why the game is even coming to Xbox. I mean, the Kingdom Hearts games have never been on Xbox, so I don't see why it's suddenly coming now. And it definitely should come to the Switch if it could handle it. And if it could handle it, I would love to see a Sora amiibo to kind of commemorate that as like a special thing. I mean, if Cloud's getting an amiibo because he was in Smash, why can't Sora get one? And then for the fifth one, let's see, I want to pick a non-Nintendo character because your question says video game character, so it could be more than just Nintendo. I don't know, maybe Sly Cooper. I would love to see one from Sony. It's obviously never going to happen because Sly is owned by Sony, but I think he's just cartoony enough that if he were to get an amiibo, he would fit right in with all the other ones. With all the Nintendo ones anyway, and to my knowledge there isn't actually any sort of like real Sly merchandise. I don't even know if there actually is like a figure or anything of it, so I would love to see a Sly Cooper amiibo, even though the series is never going to come to Nintendo probably. So yeah, that's just my dream pick. Never gonna happen, but I would love to see it. So yeah, my 5 would be Bowser Jr., Pauline, Snake, Sora, and Sly Cooper. Okay, and then the final question comes from Cade. Let's see, Cade Thuman. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name here. He's got kind of a lengthy one. I don't know if I'm going to display it all on screen or not, but I'm just going to read it off regardless, so you can just listen to it. What do you think about an option in fighting games like Smash Bros. And Street Fighter where you can freely adjust character stats? In local gameplay, not online, as things would get chaotic when online for various reasons. Not only can this give more options as to how to play a character, but it can also be used to help balance the roster, or at least matchups. While we're at it, what do you think of a customization option where gameplay can be adjusted? For instance, in Smash Bros. You can adjust the speed and even toggle on mechanics like Melee's wave dashing. I think many issues people have with fighting games can easily be fixed by giving them freedom to customize the gameplay. If you don't agree with my idea, what alternative would you suggest? Oh boy, that's a lot to think about. Let me just say that I think your idea is very, very ambitious, and I can definitely see the potential in it. I think it could be an interesting way to sort of address some of the problems people have with fighting games, but I don't think it's very realistic. I don't think that this is something we'd ever actually see, especially in something like Smash Brothers, because first of all, I feel like this would be a development nightmare. I mean, it probably took forever for Sakurai and his team just to balance out all the custom move options and to test for every possibility. And if we're throwing in all of these abilities to change the speed and the physics and the way certain character moves function, like the properties of them, if we're giving the ability to alter any of that, they need to be able to test for every single possible potential opportunity. They need to test absolutely everything to make sure that there's no bugs, that everything is able to interact in a way that makes sense, that there's nothing game-breaking about that. And I feel like that would be absolute development hell in order to actually make that happen. I feel like that would just take forever. Like, that would easily double development time. We might never see some of these games come out. Even for someone like Sakurai, who's absolutely obsessed with quality to an unhealthy degree, I don't think this is something even he would do, because this would just take such a long time. It would take so much effort. It would take a lot of manpower to make it work, and I just don't think it ultimately could. And then my second reason why I don't think this could work, aside from development hell, is because essentially you don't want to put this much power into the hands of the players, because balancing is very technical, and that's not something I think a lot of the casual players are going to be able to understand and take the most and make the most of. If you're going to put balancing into the hands of the players, then you essentially need to be able to convey concepts to them like frame data and hitboxes and stuff like that. You need to be able to explain all these technical concepts to the players in order for them to really kind of understand how they work and how to mess around with them. And I feel like that's just way too much. That's asking too much of the players. I mean, a lot of the hardcore fighting game players are going to eat that stuff up because they're going to understand how that stuff works. But a lot of the casual stuff, like a lot of the kids who play Smash Brothers, are never going to understand how a lot of this stuff works. And so just throwing a ton of options at them, they're never going to be able to make the most of it. They're never going to be able to see this stuff up to its full potential, at least until they're older. And I just feel that it would be a lot of information overload. Like if a game like this happened and you threw all these options at me to be able to change like the speed and everything like that, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I would be feeling so overwhelmed by all the options that I would never be able to touch everything because I'd be spending forever just trying to figure out how I'd be spending so much time just trying to figure out how everything works. And essentially you're spending so much time trying to mess around with all these little features that you're not even really playing the game. Like the game loses its pick up and play functionality. And so I feel like that can be problematic. If you just turn this into a fighting game simulator, then it's not really a fighting game anymore, and it kind of loses a lot of its appeal. And I mean, I definitely agree with you that trying to do this for online play would be an absolute nightmare. I don't think it would ever work for online play the way technology is right now. But even if you do it just for local play, I think you also have to take into consideration how this would work for tournaments, because technically you're playing the tournament in local play. You're having the people playing on the same system. And so if everybody has the ability to change, you know, their character's movement speed and the property of their moves and their damage and everything like that, how do you come to some sort of agreement with rule sets? How does that work in tournaments? Because you can't have two characters moving at drastically different speeds and having different character movement properties. It just doesn't work. It wouldn't be balanced. So there needs to be some sort of universal rule set, and just throwing in all of these options, that's more that the tournament organizers have to kind of work through, and that's something that the community has to come to an agreement on. And God knows how difficult it is for a community to come to an agreement about just about anything. So I'm not trying to tear your idea apart. I'm really not, because I think it really is a great idea. I think it would solve a lot of people's gripes with how characters are balanced. And I mean, I did say in that list I made for things I want to see in Smash that I would like to see a mode that lets people kind of play the game more like Melee. But my thought process behind that was just a separate mode, like bunched in there with the ability to play the game super fast and play it super slow-mo. It would just be a separate mode. I'm not talking about like being able to essentially break the game to your own standards. I just don't think that that's something that the developers would be able to do. I don't think that that's a concept that would be conveyed easily to the players, and I think that's something that would take a long time for people to really be able to make the most of. And they spend so much time trying to figure out how it works that they're not even really playing the game, so the game kind of loses its purpose in a sense. I mean, I get your idea. I really do, and I agree that balancing is a really big problem. But I don't think that essentially throwing the game at the players and telling them to figure everything out for themselves is really the best way to go about it. I don't think it's the best option to take. I think people are always going to disagree with certain characters and how they're balanced and how certain aspects of the game functions. And when you have an idea like this, it seems like you're just trying to please everybody, and the more you try to please everybody, the fewer people you actually please, because people are never going to be satisfied. Ever. Even if someone was able to execute this idea perfectly and have all these options and people can tailor it to exactly how they want the game to act, I guarantee people are still going to find things to complain about, because that's people. That's just what they do. So I almost can't see this idea as being anything more than a buggy mess or something that is really underrated and a lot of people don't devote the time to figuring out. And yeah, I think it's really difficult, and I don't think we have people in the industry who are capable of pulling something off like this. Maybe Sakurai, but God, he's been through so much already. I feel like if he were trying to make Smash Brothers like this, he'd spend so much time working on this game, he'd work himself to death. And I don't think he would really want to do that at heart, and I don't think we as a community would want him to work that hard. So I'd rather just take the games the way they are now and then deal with balance patches, trying to fix it after the fact, as opposed to just being given an almost incomplete game and being told to program it myself in a sense. I just don't think that that would work for the vast majority of people who play fighting games. It might appeal to the tournament crowd, but even that I think has some drawbacks and has some things that would need to be ironed out. Okay, so that's all the time I have for now. Thank you for all the questions, everybody. I'll hopefully get another one of these out to you relatively soon, not too far off in the future. We'll have to see how things go. Thanks for watching. This has been Brawlmaster 012, signing off.